Macbeth is a famous tragedy by William Shakespeare. The play tells the story of Macbeth and his desire for power. The play begins with General Macbeth and Banquo. The two generals defeated the Norwegian kings and they were on their way back to greet the king. After the battle, they headed to meet their king, Duncan, the King of Scotland. On their journey, they meet three witches who gave them prophecies. The three witches proclaim Macbeth as the Thane of Cawdor and the future King of Scotland. Then, they tell Banquo that he will be the father of future kings. The generals wants to hear more but the witches disappears. Macbeth is the Thane of Glamis. But how could he be the Thane of Cawdor and the King of Scotland when both of them are still alive? When Macbeth arrives, Duncan gives Macbeth the title of Thane of Cawdor, in thanks for his success in the recent battles. Duncan then proposes to make a brief visit to Macbeth's castle. Lady Macbeth receives news from her husband of the prophecy and his new title. She also vows to help him become king by any means she can. Before Duncan arrives, Lady Macbeth proposes the idea of killing Duncan to Macbeth. She calls Macbeth a coward and persuaded him to murder. After King Duncan goes to bed, Macbeth starts to plot the murder. There are two guards outside of his chambers. Lady Macbeth gets them drunk, making them fall asleep. Macbeth then kills the king and his guards while Lady Macbeth leaves the bloody daggers beside the dead king. After he murdered the king, Macbeth comes back to Lady Macbeth with bloody hands and she tells him to go wash his hands. The next morning, there was a loud banging on Macbeth's door. It was Macduff, the Thane of Fife. When they arrived at the king's bedroom, the dead king's body stuns Macduff. Macbeth also pretends to be surprised. Macbeth pretends to be angry and kills the two innocent guards before they could proclaim their innocence. Malcolm and Donalbain flee, fearing for their lives, but they are nevertheless blamed for the murder by Macbeth. Macbeth is elected King of Scotland but is plagued by feelings of guilt and insecurity. Despite being king, Macbeth is still troubled by the prophecy of Banquo whose sons are to become future kings. Macbeth then hired two assassins to murder Banquo and his son, Fleance. Banquo is killed, but the boy escapes the murderers. Meanwhile, Macbeth held a feast at his castle to celebrate and entertain their guests. Suddenly, Banquo's ghost flies into the room and Macbeth is the only person that can see it. This act makes Macbeth look deranged so Lady Macbeth quickly ushers him to bed. The next day, Macbeth went to a cave to revisit the witches. He learns that no one a woman has given birth to can harm him and he won't be defeated until Burnham moves. He thinks he is unbeatable. Macbeth embarks on a reign of terror murdering Macduff's family. Macduff himself has gone to join Malcolm at the court of the English king. Meanwhile, Malcolm, Macduff and the King of England decide to lead an army against Macbeth after hearing about Macbeth's tyrannical rule. Lady Macbeth, paralyzed with guilt, walks in her sleep and gives away her secrets to a listening doctor. She then kills herself. Macbeth is told that Burnham Wood is moving like what the witches said. It was Malcolm's army carrying branches from the forest as camouflage. In the battle, Macduff challenges Macbeth who, on learning his adversary is the child of a cesarean birth, realizes he is doomed. After the battle, Macduff brings Macbeth's head to Malcolm and Malcolm is crowned king.